This story is fictional. It's based on real events, but everything beyond the known facts is speculation. Our goal is to explore an alternate timeline, not to rewrite history, but to imagine what might have been. In September 2025, Florida became the first U.S. state to announce plans to eliminate all vaccine mandates, including those for children entering public school. For some, it was a long-awaited declaration of freedom, a rejection of government intrusion into personal medical decisions. For others, it was a chilling reversal, a deliberate step back into the darkest chapters of modern medicine. Tonight we ask, what happens when a state abandons the shield of public health? To understand the weight of this decision, we must look back. 90 years ago, polio stalked the nation. Thousands of children were left paralyzed, confined to iron lungs, their futures stolen by a virus no one could stop. Measles outbreaks scarred entire communities, spreading with ruthless efficiency, leaving children blind, deaf, or dead. Parents lived in fear of fevers that carried consequences far beyond the sickbed. The answer came through vaccines, a pact of prevention written in needles and public trust. That trust was fragile at first, but it held. Over time, it was codified into law, creating mandates that protected not only individuals but also entire generations. Vaccines became the invisible shield that allowed classrooms to flourish, soldiers to serve, and towns to thrive. But in Florida, that shield, forged in suffering and secured by decades of collective effort, is now being dismantled. On September 3, 2025, Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo stood beside Governor Ron DeSantis in Tallahassee. With cameras flashing, Ladapo denounced vaccine mandates as dripping with disdain and slavery. He and the governor vowed to erase them, not only the recently controversial COVID requirements, but also those covering polio, measles, hepatitis B, and more. To lead this effort, a commission with a strikingly symbolic name was unveiled: Make America Healthy Again. Its stated purpose was to evaluate whether vaccine mandates had truly served the public interest or whether they represented unnecessary government overreach. Overnight, one of the most settled aspects of American public health became unsettled. The announcement split the nation. Supporters hailed the move as a restoration of parental rights and bodily autonomy, long overdue after decades of creeping federal and state authority. They argue that parents, not government officials, should determine what enters their children's bodies. Critics, however, see the decision as reckless. The American Medical Association issued a sharp rebuke, warning that such policies could open the door to diseases once thought eradicated. Epidemiologists pointed out that herd immunity is fragile. Even a slight drop in vaccination rates can transform isolated cases into outbreaks. On the opposite coast, California, Oregon, and Washington banded together, forming a West Coast alliance to reinforce vaccine mandates and preserve what they call evidence-based policy. Two visions of America's health future, one dismantling mandates, the other fortifying them, now stood in direct opposition. Florida, willingly or not, had become an experiment, a proving ground where the rules of modern public health were being rewritten in real time. The question was no longer abstract, it was immediate. What happens next? Imagine one future in which the rollback works. Vaccination rates decline slightly, but outbreaks never materialize. Communities remain healthy, schools avoid mass closures, and Florida becomes a model for a new era of medical freedom. Other states watch closely, then follow suit. The concept of mandatory vaccination, once etched into the foundation of American health, fades quietly into history. Personal choice triumphs, and mandates become relics of the 20th century. But imagine the opposite. A single traveler carrying measles enters Florida and walks into a classroom of unvaccinated children. Within weeks, dozens fall ill. Parents crowd hospital wards as outbreaks ripple outward. In poorer communities where medical access is limited, cases mount quickly. Then polio, dormant for decades, resurfaces among unprotected children. What begins as isolated events transforms into a statewide crisis. Hospitals strain, doctors scramble, and old fears return with new intensity. Vulnerable populations, the elderly, cancer patients, newborns, bear the brunt. What was once an abstract debate over freedom and control becomes a very real struggle for survival. Families, left without the structure of law, are forced to choose between individual risk and collective responsibility. Some vaccinate, others resist, but everyone bears the consequences of those choices. This is the heart of the dilemma. The story of vaccines has always been a story of fragile trust. That trust was once protected by law, built not only on science but on shared sacrifice. Florida's decision fractures it. It hands the future of public health to individual choice without the safety net of a collective mandate. And so, the nation is left to wonder, is this the beginning of freedom or the start of an epidemic? This is state of what if, because sometimes the future isn't written by science alone, but by the choices we make against it. In this world, history went one way, but here, we ask what could have happened. If you want more alternate timelines and government what-ifs, subscribe, comment your theory, and stay tuned. This is State of What If.